you could give 10 people insulin resistance, and those 10 people may all show different symptoms of that insulin resistance. And I love Dr. Mary Newport's work. By far, one of my favorite doctor's favorite books. She wrote Alzheimer's, What If There Was a Cure? And she wrote about the pathway of ketones, which is like our fourth macromolecule, using energy production of the mitochondria. Because in insulin resistance, we essentially stop using a lot of energy from the mitochondria. So it's interesting. Some maybe might manifest heart disease, or this other person might manifest skin issues. The other person, autoimmune disease. This other person, they might just gain a ton of weight and have, fatigue. Like, that's so fascinating that, you could take one instant and be like, wow, this applies to all these sets of diseases, even Parkinson's, PCOS, infertility. So I think that's so amazing. And even thinking about what I was thinking about this morning is like one of the best ways to become insulin sensitive and to restore that energy being brought back into the cell is through putting on muscle in the body. But even when we put on muscle in the body, we all have different types of muscle fibers. And like you could have one muscle and have a whole bunch of different type of muscle fibers. So I love that it's so complex, and then also it can be brought down to a level of simplicity too. So yesterday I made a video and I was talking about the amino acids and surviving the catabolic apocalypse. So if you guys don't know, like what I mentioned yesterday was all of these things: insulin resistance, high levels of inflammation, compromising of the immune function. What we'll see is that all of these things put us in a hypercatabolic state, breaking down of tissues, right? So like if you were to x-ray somebody who had cancer, their bone would be broken down. So, looking at all these diseases, you can kind of simplify things. When you start to look at it, you're like, there's so many different environmental factors that could affect this. But if I go down to the simplicity, we all have cells. They all respond to light. We all need amino and fatty acids, and we all need to work with gravity. And that, like, every time you pick up a weight, like, I love weight training, resistance training. It's something I've been starting to get, like, even more back into, because it's kind of where I started with all of this in my journey. Every time you pick up a weight and you do a muscular contraction, you are the most powerful pharmacist on the planet. There's, like, so many things that happen within one contraction. And that's the thing too, is like something that is all alike in us, is that we are all kinetic beings. So I always think about this with similarities and differences, because I'm a twin and my twin looks, we look like kind of similar. Of course we have differences, but everybody always says like, what works for you is not going to work with this other person. But we do know that exercise and sunlight and amino and fatty acids, like, these are all good for us, and like I said, with weight training, get yourself some little weights, put them at home. Like, I love doing things at home. I'm a hermit, so sometimes being in the gym is like overwhelming. There's a lot of people around, but also like make it so easy for yourself. If only like let's say like years ago, like I was like, okay, Rachel, we're gonna wake up and I want to do this really intense long workout, right? But I get to this point in time where I start to talk myself out of it. And we do that. That's what insulin resistance does. We try to talk ourselves into saving energy for the future. It's kind of like hoarding on like a macroscopic level. The body's always trying to conserve energy because back in the gap, like, we don't know what's ahead of us. We don't know that we're surrounded by food. We don't know that we're safe. And when you're thinking about the nervous system and hypercatabolism, the body is not perceiving safety. We're not in that parasympathetic side, rest and digest. We're in a hypersympathetic state, hypercortisol, hyper breakdown of tissues. So where was I going with this? I don't know. But we're putting on muscle mass. We're surrounding our body, our cells, our tissues with an abundance of energy. That's what putting on muscle does. It's like, it's a passive investment. Like, if you ever heard of compound interest, $1 today compounded over time is in 20 years from now, that dollar is worth $1,000 or $2,000. And the only investment that you made was the investment in time. So what I was going back to before is make it easy. So I told myself, I'm like, okay, you're going to do 3 push-ups, because 3, you make it so easy that it's hard not to do it. And that's how you build up momentum and motivation. And I'm in a psychology class, and my psych professor, this week was about motivation, and it said motivation is not something that you just feel, it's an action that you do. So when you look at motivation, you're essentially looking at the dopamine pathways. And again, going back to how and where does dopamine come from? Well, dopamine comes from one of our essential amino acids, phenylalanine. It also comes from phenylalanine, will break down into tyrosine and then break down into dopamine. Again, going back to these insulin resistance issues, when you're looking at Parkinson's is issues with dopamine in the motivational centers of the brain. We can also make dopamine by going into the sun and completing a task. So even if you do something that is so easy, you are building your motivation through these small actions and small habits. Even if you go outside into the sun for only a minute or 2, you're building dopamine, you're building all the hormones in your body. And yeah, so putting on muscle is good for all of us. And like the laws of physics is mass repels mass. So as you put on energy in the body, you are literally, like Einstein said, he said energy and mass bends space-time. So that's why the aging process gets slowed down, is because we are essentially we're putting ourselves down in our 3D bodies, because a lot of us our spirits are like almost out of our bodies. We need to find a way to put ourselves back into the 3D density. Hope that makes sense to you. And then we bend space-time. We're regulating our autonomic nervous system. We're increasing our oxygen capacity, increasing our glucose uptake, strengthening our cerebellum. And cerebellum is responsible for communicating with the memory center, the frontal cortex, all these secondary motor centers where you're feeling more grounded, centered, calm, and able to focus and be at peace. So, you can't put on, whenever you think about muscle, like I'm thinking about the amino acids and the protein, right? Like people made fun of me before. They're like, oh, you're eating your protein, you're getting the gains. It's not about the gains. When I'm eating the protein, I'm thinking about mitochondria. I'm thinking about melatonin. I'm thinking about my skin, collagen, getting in more amino acids, because amino acids, it's confusing, right? Collagen, we're like, okay, you need to increase your collagen intake. So then I've completely dissociated the fact that collagen is just long strands of amino acids. The same thing with fats and oils. Like they're the same thing, and oil is fat, but we use different terms for them, so we become confused. And we can simplify things. We definitely can do that, but not having enough amino acids, and I always explain this, is there's 20 amino acids that the body typically uses, and if you take 20 amino acids and you think about the alphabet, 26 letters, what we're doing when we're not getting enough amino acids and enough nutrients in the diet is we're essentially saying, hello, write me a story with the alphabet letters A through G. So if I only give you letters A through G, that severely limits your capacity to write out stories, because you don't have the letters to write anything out. It's like taking a keyboard on the computer and cutting off half of it. Now, how many words can I type with only half the keyboard? And our immune systems are so tired. This is what I was talking about in the video yesterday. Our immune systems are being affected now by background radiation levels, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and it's just something that we have to learn to work with. Obviously, there's benefits to technology and to being able, like I love having Wi-Fi. I love being able to call someone in a different country if I need to, or post this video on the internet. It's helpful, but we have to understand what radiation does at a biological level, at the atomic level, which is it kicks off electrons. And what this does is essentially it dehydrates us at a faster rate. So as long as we understand that influence, we understand that we need a higher amount of amino acids and meditation, things that slow down this dehydration process, putting on muscle, getting into the sun, remembering that we're in the right place at the right time, getting enough rest. All these things are so important, and slowing down the catabolic metabolism that we're experiencing and balancing out catabolism and anabolism, which is processes that go on and off each day. This is this is balancing out your balance sheet for cellular currency, right? And every time you invest in amino acids in muscle, you are building that cellular currency. You're building your investment account. And I'm really passionate about this topic, obviously, because I started here because I was on an anti-anxiety medication, and I came to studying serotonin because I was on a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, came across the amino acid tryptophan. And I started to study the chemical breakdown. It was tryptophan breaks down into serotonin and then into melatonin. But it also has another alternate pathway involved with disease states and inflammation. So it's not enough just to focus on the fuel itself. It's so important to focus on the environment that you're surrounding yourself with. Am I getting the sun? Am I exercising? But also cutting out relationships with people that drain and exhaust you. That's the trickiest part, is every time we have our own biochemistry, our own hormones, and every time we get into an environment with someone else, they have their influence and their biochemistry and their hormones, and we do a little dance with people. So if you're constantly facing resistance with people, it's never about them, it's always about us figuring out what is my part that I'm playing in this, and can I repair this? Can I make this environment more harmonious, or do I need to separate myself? And just remember, whenever you say no to something, or you pull yourself out of an environment that you don't feel is good for you, there's always another environment that is waiting for you, an environment that feels more at peace. Same thing with people. If you say no, cut yourself out from a group of friends that you always feel terrible after hanging out, you're going to make space for other people to come into your life, other people who are more balanced in their biochemistry, who suit you better, and who you feel more relaxed and calm and expansive around. And it's just, we can only hold so much in our space at one time. So if you're constantly reminiscing and feeling negative about the experiences that you're having, it's just time to let them go. Let them go, walk into the new season, walk into the new chapter. And they have that big saying, let people treat you poorly, let them not show up, let them do whatever they have to do. It's, let them go, because you can't change anybody. It reminds me of a bird. I was thinking about this earlier, a bird that's stuck in a cage. Sometimes I have felt in my life that it's kind of like watching a scary movie, and you're watching someone be in the same bad habits and patterns, and you want to let them out, and you want to let them out the cage / tell them, in the scary movie on the screen, you're like, oh my God, stop, something bad's about to happen, but you are just sitting on the couch watching the movie, and you can't interfere with their pathway and their growth and their knowledge. And one of the videos I saw a few weeks ago was, don't rob people of the ability to self-correct, because that's one of the most powerful tools that we have in our toolbox. So anyway, environment is super important. Who we hang around with, who we surround ourselves with, the conversations that we're having, all very important for our hormones, for catabolism and anabolism. And anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. Remember, every single day is a new biochemical cascade. So today, right now, you have a new opportunity to set this day and forward, and then tomorrow is a whole new day. So I wish you the best of luck, and I'll catch you later.